What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a recap for the Hakes auctions that ended last night. I'm filming this on July 27th. It'll probably go live later this weekend, but there were some pretty incredible items that sold, so I put together a two-part video that covers just a small sliver of the items that sold. And the big question I had leading into this was, how would prices be relative to past auctions? And if you guys will remember, I did put together a video June 13th of last year, so a little over a year ago, where I made the argument that prices for collectibles had peaked and that we're going to see a downward trend after that. And I'll put a link at the end of the video, at the very end of the video, you know, where it pops up saying subscribe now. I'll put a link to that video so you guys can go back and check it out. But I did make a call back then. In June 13th of last year, and I said prices will be going down from here. And in general, the comic book market was its own animal. It was already starting to trend down, so it's not like I had some big prediction there. But if you remember, June of last year, prices in general were pretty much at their peak for action figures. And I think that hindsight being 2020, I think that I was right in my call, because in general, I would say that over the last year or so, prices have done nothing except go down. And this auction was no exception. Prices were way down relative to some of the peak prices. And most of the items that I saw came in below or at the Hakes estimate on the low end. So they did not kind of approach the upper end of the price estimate that Hakes would put out. So there were some great deals out there, I think, for those of you who were looking to buy, but prices were down anywhere from, I would say, 35 to 50% or more on some of these really rare items. So the upper end of the market has come down, and I think these prices reflect that. So the first one we're going to start off with is a rocket-firing Boba Fett prototype. This one was graded AFA 75+. In all fairness, this one did not include the rocket. It only included the figure with the L slot. So no rocket as it's labeled there. So it was a 75+. Still, we're talking a rocket-firing Boba Fett prototype. There's, what, maybe 50 to 100 of those that exist max. The value code on that one was $100 to $2,000. The winning bid, including the buyer's premium for all of these prices, it includes the 18% buyer's premium from Hakes. The total was $99,000 and change. So it came in even below the low estimate that Hakes had. Now, I knew $200,000 was too low. I thought $100,000 was too low. I thought it would hit somewhere around the 130 mark, somewhere in that ballpark, just because it didn't have the rocket. There was one that sold last year for 200 and change, 209 if I remember. That one was a higher grade, and it also included the rocket. So I figured it would come in well below 150, but still it came in at 99. So it came in well below even my rather pessimistic estimate on that one. Here was a double telescoping Luke Skywalker. This was an AFA 85. So 12 backseat telescoping saber. The last AFA 85 that I remember came in around $50,000 or more. And the value code on it was $50,000 to $75,000. It came in at $38,940. That's down, I'd say, what's that? About 45% relative to the last one that was an AFA 85 that sold. So that just shows you that the market is really down. And I don't blame Hakes for these. You know, Hakes put on a great auction. They advertised it great. The promotional materials were great. This is just a function, folks, of the collectibles market coming off of the peaks from last year, June of last year. And it's, you know, been slowly, steadily going down. The recession, you could argue, was kind of there. You know, while it's technically not a recession, GDP numbers came out that were positive. This is kind of one of those silent recessions, I guess, because of high inflation. And, you know, usually the upper end of the market holds up better because to a certain extent, people buying this stuff, you know, they're somewhat recession proof. They've got a lot of money to burn. But even these items, I mean, this is down again, you know, a good solid 45% or more relative to the last one that sold. So even these high-grade items are not exempt. Here was a 12-back C Luke Skywalker Taiwan AFA 80. That one sold for $1,900. $1,900. This is after the buyer's premium. Now, this is a great price. Now, admittedly, this is what we talk about at Hakes, is that look for items that have price stickers, look for items that are punched versus unpunched, and most importantly, look for items that have a 75 subgrade. So if you're out there shopping and you're bargain shopping, quote unquote bargain shopping, I know these items are expensive, but if you're looking for a 12-back, you got some money to burn, look for items with that 75 subscore, and look for items that have price stickers and are punched versus unpunched, because you'll get better deals on them. And $1,900 is a great deal for a 12-back C Luke Farmboy AFA 80. I mean, that's a really good buy. I was expecting $2,500 or more. The value code was $2,000 to $5,000. It still came in well below that. Next up was an AFA 80 plus 12-back A Princess Leia SKU on the figure stand. This one was a punched example. Now, this is one that came in above the value code of $2,000 to $5,000. It came in at $50.32. And the main reason being that this is, number one, a high-grade item, an 80 plus, and it's got the SKU on the figure stand. So this is, the earliest of the early 12-backs. So, again, it was a punched example, so I was a little surprised it came in that high. I didn't think it would hit 5,000 personally, just because it was punched versus unpunched. But, if you're a 12-back A with the SKU on the footer stand collector, and, it's hard to put together a full set of these. So you kind of have to take what you can. And if you're looking for 80 and above, with a 12-back A 80 plus grade, that's a high grade. But, admittedly, it was a punched example, and it still came in above the value code. So I would argue that this one went against the general trend of a lot of the items that we're looking at. Here's a 12-back B C3PO AFA 80 plus. That one came in at $10.99, and that was right at the bottom end of the value code of $1,000 to $2,000. Again, that to me is a very, very fair price. I mean, that's a great deal, in my opinion. Here was a 12-back A Han Solo small head. That one came in at $3,050. So that's kind of right towards the middle of the value code on that one. 75, 80, 80 on that one. But, again, I'd say last year this was probably easily $4,000, easily. Because it was a gorgeous example. It was punched, but I still think that if you look at this item a year ago, this was probably $4,000 plus. Next up was an AFA 85 12-back C large head Han, and this is another one that came in above the value code, mainly because it's on the 12-back and it's got the large head. Obviously they had the running change from the small head to the large head, and it's tough to find the large head Hans on a 12-back. So I did expect this one to go high. It was an unpunched example with no price sticker, AFA 85. So that one again came in at $57.53, which was at the above the value code. But there are exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rule, and this is probably one that falls into the category of super rare. And there's going to be some later items that I'm going to show you that are also rare that still came in low. But that one was a good example of one that also kind of went against the trend, like the Leia. Here's one that supports my argument. This one was an AFA 80 12-back A vinyl cape Jawa. It did not have any stains on the cape. It was in really great shape. There you go. There's a good close-up of it there. This one sold for $15,576, which is well below even the low end of the value code of $20 to $35. I thought this surely would easily hit $20,000 easily. At a minimum, kind of $18,000. That was on top of my head. That's what I remember the last AFA 80 selling for. But this one had an archival case, unpunched, no price sticker, AFA 80, no stains on the cape, and it still came in at only $15,576. Whoever got this one got a bargain. And again, I know I'm talking big boy prices here, and probably something that most of us, if not all of us, would never own. But still, that is a great buy relative to where these were selling last year. I mean, that's easily. I bet if this had been listed last year, I bet it would probably hit 25 pretty easily. Maybe I'm being optimistic as to what it would have hit during the peak prices, but $15,576, that's the lowest price I've seen in a long time for one that did not have any stains on the cape. There was one that did have stains on the cape that I think was sold at LGP auctions, and it came in below this number, but it obviously had staining on the cape and had degraded since grading. Next up was a 12-back B Vader AFA 80. That one came at $12.98. I mean, when's the last time you've seen a 12-back Vader AFA 80 unpunched, made in Taiwan, that came in at $1,300 or less? I mean, that is a massive price drop. And the value code on that was $2,000 to $5,000. I was expecting $2,500 or more, and it came in at $1,300. So that's a gulp. Ouch, ouchie. Next up was a 12-back B Stormtrooper. That one was an 80 grade. That one came in at $1,005, again, at the very low end of the value code. Here was a 12-back C Stormtrooper graded by CAS, 85%. That one came in at $1,180. So there were some good deals here. Now, again, this one had a price sticker and it was punched. 12-back C for AFA 80, or excuse me, CAS 85 for $1,180. And again, the 12-back B sold for $1,005. That was also punched, but no price sticker on that one. So two good deals on Stormtroopers. Here was a Palitoy R2D2 AFA 90. AFA 90. The value code was $2,000 to $5,000. It came in towards the lower end of the range at $2,984. To me, I think that's actually probably a pretty fair price. It wasn't a steal, but I was expecting the $2,000 number to be way too low for an AFA 90. Although it is surprising how many very high-grade AFA Palitoy 12-back R2D2s are out there. There was another one that sold at LGP auctions here recently. So, but to me, $2,984 is probably about right for such a high grade. So take that for what you will. There were a number of different Stellari Harberts Italian markets. Here was a UKG 80%. That one came in at $1947 for Chewbacca. The value code was $2,000 to $5,000. So again, at the bottom end of the value code. The Jawa, this one was graded AFA 80 as well. That one came in well below the value code of $2,000 to $5,000. As I expected, the Jawa is not particularly hard to find on this card back. But still, it's an AFA 80 punched example. That one came in at $1,570. $1,570. That's a really good buy there. Next up was an early bird kit. And speaking of items that come in, the value code was $5,000 to $10,000 for an AFA 80 plus. This one did have the telescoping saber Luke, which I actually thought that value code was low. I was expecting probably in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $15,000. So it looks like Hakes was more in line with actual market values than I was, because I thought that value code was way too low. But AFA 80 plus, that one sold for $86.96. And I remember some that were selling for $12,000 to $15,000 pretty regularly last year. So the price has definitely dropped. But in all fairness, and shout out to Hakes on that, they had the value code dead on the money, $86.96. For an AFA 80 plus, and I thought that was a great buy personally. Next up was just a standard 20-back G Walrus Man. This one did have the circle extension on the back of the card there. So there's a little sticker on the back of the card that says offer extended for the boss, or this is for the Boba Fett mail away, excuse me, $331.80. So a little tougher to find that offer extension sticker. And that was an AFA 80, and that one sold for $863. $863. It was unpunched. It did have a price sticker, but still, that's a bargain of a price. Bargain of a price for a beautiful 20-back Walrus Man. Next up was a 20-back A Jawa AFA 80. This one was a punched example. That one sold for $501. Now, I know it's a fairly common item. There's a lot of 20-back Jawas out there, but if you were early card back hunting, I mean, there were some bargains to be had, and this is a great deal, an absolute steal of a deal at $501.50. The value code was $700 to $1,000. I was expecting kind of $800 to $900 minimum, but $501 on that was just an absolute deal. Next up, we had a 20-back D R5D4 with the rocket firing Boba Fett mail away offer with the blacked out sticker on the back. It did have two price stickers, unpunched, AFA 80 plus, and that one sold for $11.52. I bid on one of these last year, and it sold for $1,500 or more, if memory serves. So, again, it came in at the lower end of the value code, but still, that went way lower than I expected. $11.52 was a great deal, and I hope one of y'all were able to pick that up. Next up, we've got an AFA 85 plus 21-back A Boba Fett. Now, keep in mind that this is the single highest graded example on the AFA population report. So this is one of one in terms of the grade. AFA 85 plus. Here's the label on it. Straight 85s for the subscore. 21-back A Boba Fett debut card, and it sold for $19,470. And the value code was $35,000 to $50,000. I was expecting at a minimum, even pessimistically, I was thinking no way it would sell for less than $25,000. No way it would sell for less than that. And it sold for $19,470. So again, deep pocketed big whale collectors that we're actually buying right now, they scooped up some really big values. And whoever got this, I would argue in 10 years time, they're going to make a lot of money on this. I bet it sells for quite a bit more than 19,470 whenever this hits the market again. But that's a gorgeous example. And, you know, that came in well low, way lower than the value code. But I think it was worth every penny of it if you could afford it. But AFA, you know, again, it's a 1 of 1 in terms of the grade. And to get it for 19,470 when AFA 80s, you know, they would sell very regularly last year for $15,000 plus, $18,000 sometimes. So again, that number, it was way lower than I expected for the final price. Here was another 21 back A Boba Fett. This was an AFA 80. That one sold for $11,033. So again, that number was, this time last year, it was $15,000 to $18,000. Now it sold for $11,033. So big drops on some of these card backs. Now again, this one was punched, so you know, keep that in mind. It probably would, you know, maybe it would have been towards closer to 15 last year. Unpunched examples more like 18. But wow, that is a big drop. Next up, we've got some La Guerra de las Galaxies 12-inch Lily Leddies. These were some items I showed in the preview, and all of them came in well lower than I expected. This one was the Luke. It was a qualified AFA 50, and admittedly it's low grade, but you know, loose, ungraded, just loose, complete, ungraded. These can go for $2,000 or more. I've seen them sell regularly for that, and this one sold for $23.60. To get one AFA graded with all of the packaging still in the box for that is an incredible deal. The value code on it was $5,000 to $10,000. I thought, sure, yeah, $5,000 is probably about right, minimum. And it sold for $23.60. It came in half of the low end of the value code. Pretty incredible. Next up was the R2-D2. That one also came in low at $1,584. Very regularly, these would sell for $1,200 or more, loose, ungraded. And to get it complete in the package, AFA 30, you know, again, I know it's low grade, but these are very difficult items, holy grail type items if you're Ledy collectors. Really good deal there. Here was the Leia. That one sold for $11.80. That one came in half of the low end of the value code. The value code was $2,000 to $5,000. To get that for $11.80 is incredible. That's an incredible deal. I mean, the only reason I say that is because I follow these when they're for sale, loose and ungraded, in some of the Ledy focus groups on Facebook, and just the figure by itself, loose, complete, ungraded, easily can sell for $1,000 or $1,500. So to get that one with the packaging for, you know, already graded AFA 40 for $11.80 is a bargain. Here was the radio-controlled Sandcrawler first shot prototype. I wanted to show this one because this is kind of one of those rarities that also went against the trend. And it's because it's a prototype. It's a first shot prototype for the radio-controlled Sandcrawler, one of the items that's kind of in Kenner lore, you know. Just the standard retail release is a very desirable item. And this one was an AFA 85 first shot unpainted prototype. So pretty incredible item. Here it is with the radio controller, with the ladder, and there it is, AFA encased. Just an absolutely epic item. I can't imagine there's many of these out there, if any at all. And this one did have a small crack in the lower corner on the back. 2 of them, actually. So, you know, just keep that in mind, that even with those cracks, the value code was $5,000 to $10,000. It came in almost at the upper end of the value code of $98.64. So, Rarity still sells. Rarity still commands a pretty decent price premium. But even some of those fairly rare high-grade items like the Vinyl Cape Jawa, like the AFA 85 Plus Boba Fett 21 back A, I mean, they came in well lower than in past auctions. And I'll do a second video to follow up on some of the later items in another video. This is just a random sampling of items I picked out. But pretty incredible items that sold. And in general, there were some great deals to be had. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much, as always, for watching, and I'll be back soon.